Welcome back to the Marianne Hickman Show. Talk Tips. Today we have Talk Tip 28, how to get more stages before the end of the week. Check it out. So a lot of speakers ask me, how do I get on more stages? That is the number one most frequently asked question by experienced speakers, mid-level speakers, and people that aren't even ready for the stage. They're thinking, how do I get on stage? How do I get my message out there? And it's critical to do this. You know this. The best way to get your business out there is to get on stages. What people don't always think of is the different kind of stages that exist. Now, you've seen me talk about this all over social media in other talk tips. I'm going to briefly recap it for you. There are 4 different types of stages. Stick with me. Okay, number 1, we have your stage that you own that's physical. This is opening up your house. It could be renting an event center, getting a room at the library. You can get a free venue. It's a physical in-the-room stage. You have your digital stages, which we're going to talk about here in this episode, so I won't go too deep into that. Give me just a second. Number 3, we have other people's physical stages. Now, this is what most people think about when they're thinking, oh, I want to get on more stages. I want to be featured on more stages. This is what most people think about. It's awesome. You want that, but don't discount the stages that you're actually already doing, and don't miss out on the monetization opportunities either. So the last one is other people's digital stages. Those are podcasts. And I will tell you right now, podcasts. I was just listening to the news last night. And yes, right now, if you're listening to this, we just had the election yesterday. So yeah, I was up till midnight watching the news. But here's the crazy thing. If you see what happened with this election that we just had, with the popularity of the candidates who got on podcasts, they talked about this. They even said on the news to the entire United States of America and everyone else around the world that was watching that podcasts landed this election. So what does that tell you? It tells you that you need to be getting on podcasts in order to spread your message out to the world. So check out this news clip and see what they said about podcasts.
Joe Rogan endorsing Donald Trump. This just after Elon Musk made the case for 45 during his 2.5-hour sit-down interview on Rogan's podcast today.
So if you don't think podcasts are important, you're gravely mistaken. This is why I want you to get my podcast database, over 800 shows that, guess what, are looking for guests. So apply to those shows. You can get podcast bookings before the end of the week. If you're consistent enough, you apply to the right shows. But I want to tell you how to get stages even faster and easier. We're going to rewind and go back to number 2, your own digital stages. Don't miss out on this and don't discredit it. The number one way to get on stage before the end of the week, nay, before the end of the night. In fact, you should shut down this video as soon as you're done watching it and go do it right now, is going live on social media. This is your stage. If you're one of my students, I'm going to give you this challenge. And if you want to become one of my students, or whether even you're not, take this challenge. 50 lives in 2 weeks. Yes. 50 lives in 2 weeks. My students are in the room. They're looking at each other like, what did you just ask me to do? She's freaking nuts. Yes, I am. Because here's the thing. Putting in the reps gets you better, faster, stronger at whatever you're doing. So yes, your first live is going to suck. You're probably going to have crappy lighting, and you're probably going to trip over your words, and you're probably going to not know what to say. And guess what? Nobody's going to show up, and you're going to be like, oh, I'm so demoralized that nobody watches my lives anyway. Who cares? You're cutting your teeth on your first stage. So do the live even though nobody watches, or maybe if 1 or 2 people watch, and just finish it. That will put you 98% ahead of everybody else, because everybody else is going to be listening to those fears of what if nobody shows up, and what if I don't look good on camera, and what if my tech doesn't work, and blah, blah, blah. Just go live. Set a timer for 2 minutes and talk. Share your message, and then do it again 50 times in 2 weeks. Because here's the thing. You're going to be 100 times better on your 100th stage than you were on your first stage. But you can't get 100 times better if you don't do that first stage, or that second stage, or the 10th stage, or the 50th stage. So you might as well go live on social media. Now, when you get really good at this, you can deliver value over your live, and then you can do what's called a CTA, or a call to action, which means the audience member that's listening to it will do something. They'll feel moved to do something. It's a natural next step by the end of your live. So your live should include 3 elements, no matter how long your live is. It should introduce you. It should tell a micro version of your story, and then deliver some value. Introduce yourself, a micro version of your story, and deliver some value. So, for example, Alex Hormozi talks about this as well. If I were to be going live on social media right now, I would say, hey, what's up? Marianne Hickman here. I've got over 2,400 stages under my belt. And if there's one thing I've learned about public speaking is that it is the number one way to grow your business. In fact, I use the power of stages to go from food stamps to financial freedom. And I put the entire formula in a 12-page book. You can get it in the comments below. That's a 30-second stage. Right? Now, if I wanted to go more in depth of my story, I would say, hey, listen, I remember the moment that I was kneeling next to my bed. I had a negotiation with God and I said, listen, I've got $100,000 worth of debt and you've either got to put a box on my front porch with $100,000 in cash in it, or you got to introduce me to someone who's got this figured out. And I would be lying if I said I didn't check the porch. For 4 days, I checked the porch for the box and it didn't show up. But within a week, I met someone who taught me the power of stages. And then I met another person who was getting on stage. And I went to event after event after event. And I became a seminar junkie. And I wrote down the entire 11-step formula for how to go from your expertise to your monetization. Download it in the comments below. A little bit longer of a stage, but that makes a perfect live. So if you want to get on stage before the end of the day, before the end of the week, if you have a stage goal, I want to get on 50 stages before the end of the year, pick up your phone and go live. Thanks for joining us on Talk Tips, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Marianne Hickman here again. Listen, I hope super helpful for you. Maybe you learned something new. Share with me in the comments what was valuable. Or if you have this whole separate question like, hey, I wanted to know about this. I wanted to know about stage fright. I want to know how about my presentation on stage. I want to know about how to dress on stage. Anything that you want to know that's relevant to growing your business through stages, put in the questions. Because guess what? I go through and answer all of those personally. That's not an agency or a VA. That's me going through and looking at your questions because you are who I am here for. So last thing is I want you to get this database. If you haven't gotten it already, now I've got thousands of downloads on this thing, so maybe you got it, but if not, make sure you go to mariannehickman.com/database. What that's going to do is take you to a page. You're going to input all of your information. We're going to send the database to you. You're going to request access to it. I keep it locked down so I can make sure I get it to just the right people. And you're going to request access. And then once you have that, you're going to go through and apply to podcasts that have the topic that you'd be an expert speaking on. Here's the thing. I get this database updated twice a week. So there's always new stuff in there. And if you're a podcaster, there's even a list of guests that you can have on your show on that podcast. Maybe you end up doing a podcast swap and you grow your audience that way. Regardless, I want you to get it. So mariannehickman.com/database, and we'll see you in the next Talk Tips.